and welcome to Morning Movie News, where we have some very light and fluffy movie news stories to discuss this morning, and then a pretty serious viewer request. So let's start out with those stories. The first, they're all from last week. They're kind of like little bits and pieces that scraps, I think is the right term, that I saved. You know, they were always like on the fringe of what I wanted to cover the next day, and because it's been another slow weekend in the movie news business, I've put them together for kind of a movie news stew. So the first one is about Hugh Jackman, who, is doing the publicity rounds for Pan. So, of course, naturally, people are only asking him about Wolverine. We talked about this last week with the Alien story and how people are asking Ridley Scott about Prometheus 2, a.k.a. he revealed Alien Paradise Lost, when he's trying to promote The Martian, right? So it's a mixed bag. The celebrity gets their name out there in this other project they're working on, but they're not really getting the name out of the property that they're working on. Like, for instance, all this Hugh Jackman, these interviews, did you really see them in the context of him promoting Pan? I'd be curious to know that. Because Pan, by the way, is already opened in the UK. It's already available to watch there, and we get it in just about 2 weeks here in the United States. And there is not a word about it, which is unfortunate for that movie. But anyway, Hugh Jackman, of course, has done, and he's been very open to talk about Wolverine, as he always has, and that's good. I think Hugh Jackman's one of those actors who realizes how helpful that role has been to his career and is very thankful for it. But he's getting ready to move on, and he, of course, is making his final Wolverine movie, right? And everybody was like, do the Old Man Logan storyline. And it seemed like he would, because, why not take all the best Wolverine stories for yourself before you hit the road? Although, I think Old Man Logan as a storyline is mixed, and also there's so many characters that aren't available to him to use in that storyline, because, as Mark Miller pointed out, recently with Civil War, it's really hard to do that storyline justice without all the Marvel characters either. Mark Miller always likes to use all the tools at his disposal. When he was writing for Marvel, he could, because back then they weren't sidelining properties they didn't own the film rights to. And perhaps this is why they're doing that now, so this headache doesn't show up later down the road, right? But anyway, it seems he's going to do a different story that's going to be original to the movies, and it's going to really focus on Wolverine's relationship with Patrick Stewart's Professor X, the father-son relationship as Hugh Jackman defines it. And I think that's an interesting direction to go in. I would have liked to have seen someone do the origin story for Wolverine. Fantastic miniseries written, a couple of years back because they didn't want the movies to do the origin story. And it would have been nice to have seen that explored. But maybe they can do that once Hugh Jackman leaves and kind of delay the time of having to cast an older, or, so they can introduce their younger Wolverine, because the origin story goes into his young, just going into manhood. But we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, I think it's a nice idea to play up the role of Professor X, and they said they're going to give Professor X more to do, because I don't think Patrick Stewart's ever really gotten to do anything with that character besides really be everyone's dad or grandpa. I think Professor X is a wonderful character. I really like that they've done a little bit more with him with James McAvoy in the role, but even there I feel they've held back, and he still has to be kind of like a pre-father figure, right, or the responsible older brother, and that's supposed to be Cyclops' job until he goes crazy. But I think that Professor X has always been an interesting character with untapped potential, and I would really like to see more people get to tap that potential. More people tap that. I just think, and I don't know if that's going to happen in the comics anymore because they don't own the film rights, so they might not be really keen to explore that. There are rumblings that they're going to really try and replace the X-Men with the Inhumans in the Marvel Comics universe, which is a sad day indeed, considering the fact I love the X-Men. What's Fox going to do, start publishing comic books themselves? It's a little bit of a disaster. But, so this might be not only the last hurrah of Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, but perhaps the characters for some time. But I am excited to see Professor X step a little more into the spotlight, and I would like to see him get more awesome things to do. And sometimes he can walk, so why not let him walk here? I don't know. Or give him his cool hover wheelchair. And also, whenever they have the hover wheelchair in the movies, it always moves like so slow, like one of those chairs that helps you go up the stairs. Like that slow motorized movement. I would like to see, I guess because they haven't really met the Shi'ar, but the Shi'ar technology, or maybe they can have that be part of the movie. Introduce Lilandra finally. You want to give Professor X something to do? Give him a love interest. They never have really done that or explored that. They have the Moira McTaggart situation, but that's always seemed more like fan service or continuity service than genuine. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see a buddy I'm excited to see a buddy movie with the difference in ages, which is unusual. And I'm interested to see where the Wolverine character goes after this. And that's what else well, not Tom Hardy, that's who Hugh Jackman recommended. That's what something else Hugh Jackman has done. People have said, who would you like to replace you? And I'm like, oh, I think that's funny that you think that he would get to choose his replacement. But anyway, he said Tom Hardy would be a good pick. And everybody's picking Tom Hardy. People want Tom Hardy to be the next James Bond. He is on everybody's wish list. And I think Tom Hardy, to his credit, is open to everybody's requests. I think he even wanted to genuinely do Suicide Squad. But of course, the Revenant shooting kept reshooting or extended shooting kept him from being able to do that. I think Tom Hardy would actually make a very good Wolverine. He has I think the rage and the attitude problems just right. I think he could really tap into the feralness of Wolverine, and I think he would relish those kinds of sequences. And he's also on the short side. Tom Hardy's actually pretty small by Hollywood standards. Just go watch This Means War, where he looks really tiny next to Chris Pine. And they do nothing to try and hide that, which I always thought was hilarious when I watched that movie. I was like, wow, could you at least try and help Tom Hardy out a little bit by staging these scenes where it's not so clear that he is so tiny next to Chris Pine? But I think that would be really interesting. I think Tom Hardy would be a fantastic fit with that character, and actually a much better fit than he would with James Bond. So I'd actually be really into that. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think Tom Hardy has a relationship with Fox at all. He's of course very strong at Universal. At Warner Brothers, he's doing the 100 Bullets stuff. I just don't know if he'd be interested in going with another studio for such a commitment. But I think it would be a great choice. And Hugh Jackman, I wish he was as good a producer in terms of putting these movies together. Sorry, Hugh Jackman, as he is in casting them. I think that. X-Men Origins Wolverine obviously was really bad, and I think that while the Wolverine was a step in the right direction, I don't think it was of the quality that it could have been, and it wasn't as good. I think it wasn't as good as movies it could have been, and it's all James Mangold's fault. I think it's a horrible choice of directors, and I'm disappointed that Hugh Jackman has picked him for the third outing. I guess because the Wolverine did pretty well at the box office, but just because you survived one bad choice director doesn't mean you should double down. All right, so that's the first story of the day. The second is Paul Bettany talking about the Vision. I'm not quite sure why he's doing the rounds of press. Maybe for the Blu-ray release, but he's also doing some publicity. And so see how poorly it's done. Like it's just Paul Bettany talks the Vision. But he had some interesting things to say about the character, and that he feels the Vision is a little bit dangerous because you don't know which direction that he's going to go in terms of moment-to-moment decisions, and also, I think, overall who he's going to be. Paul Bettany said this is an all-powerful, all-knowing being, but at the same time, he is very naive because he literally was just born yesterday, right? So he has a lot of knowledge, but he doesn't have a lot of practical knowledge or experience, I guess you could say. And that's a very interesting place to put a character, right? It's like having a super genius baby, but it's still a baby. And I think that's one of the nice things about hiring an actor like Paul Bettany for this kind of role, and that he wants to challenge himself and find a really interesting angle to play. He's not just like, I'm in a Marvel movie, woohoo, my career's not dead. And there's that element as well, as you can see from his interviews, and he likes having career stability and knowing that he has several movies with which to define this character, although he won't reveal how many. But he said that's being played with in Captain America Civil War, and I couldn't be happier. If they could somehow make the Vision a cool character, this is a character that has been sidelined for quite some time after they had, Wanda kill him when she lost her mind all the way back, House of M around that period. And he hasn't really come back until recently because he's in the movies. But if they could really make that character an interesting character who exists in a gray area where you don't know if he's good or evil, that would be really interesting. And it would make him a great partner for Wanda, because who knows if Wanda is good or evil? That's the whole point of that character. And so you would really understand why they're a great and dangerous couple. So I think that would be very interesting indeed, and I'm very excited to see that played out. I hope that it is. I think a lot of times with these comic book movies, particularly at Marvel, we're teased with these really intelligent depictions of the characters that are going to be really heavy and deep and layered, and then we see the actual product and we're like, that's not deep and layered, that's just the typical Marvel formula, which I like. But I think they have to really do a better job of managing expectations over there, and not, making people feel they're going to get one thing when in fact they're getting the other. Managing expectations is a huge part of any business, and I feel that Marvel is a little bit off right now in how they do that. And also, they have to understand the direction, as I've said, that the entire movement, the entire comic book movie genre is going in, and I feel it's going darker and more layered. So Vision could be a real godsend to them. Now, the third story of the day, this has absolutely no credibility in Hollywood, but it was a funny suggestion from Digital Spy. As we've discussed, they announced that Disney is going to basically remake Mary Poppins. We've discussed, what's the correct terminology for this? Is it a sequel? Is it a remake? What is it? And I think that while technically it's a sequel because it takes place years later during the Great Depression in the UK, and Mary Poppins takes care of another family, not the Bankses. People are saying, oh, it's a sequel and it's going to have new songs. But the thing is that they were very clear that it's not going to play off of the Julie Andrews version. It's not going to be related to that in terms of the story, right? They're not going to reference that. That's not going to be canon, I guess you could say. So it really is a remake, but by setting it in a different time period, I think they're trying to soften the blow to fans of the original. And also, they don't want to redo the original because you can't redo the original. So it's a way to revisit the character without having to worry about ruining or, offending fans of the original movie. I think it's really a double-edged sword, but I like this suggestion that's emerged. It's very tricky, but I think this would work. Because they had a poll, and they were like, who do you want to play Mary Poppins in this remake? And there have been names thrown out like Emily Blunt and Anne Hathaway. But for fun, I'm assuming, Digital Spy threw in Benedict Cumberbatch's name. And he actually won their poll, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, not only because the joke candidate won the poll, but because it was actually a pretty good idea. Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, would make a fantastic Mary Poppins. And, you could even potentially set it in modern day and really play into the whole nanny craze, right? That's a male nanny. I think that would be absolutely hilarious, and I think that Benedict Cumberbatch would be really game to do that because I think Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't get enough credit for how willing he is to play along with jokes and gags. And I think it would just so play off of his image just so perfectly because he comes across very prim and proper, and then he's able to do something really zany and crazy, and everyone loves it. It's the Benedict Cumberbatch formula. And I think it would work really well with Mary Poppins. So I think it's a great idea. It's a little bit silly, but I think that it could definitely work if everybody would go on board with it. And it would be so different that I think that it would be okay and not make people feel the other one was being ruined, right? I think anybody else is going to get compared, any actress would get compared to Julie Andrews, but Benedict Cumberbatch would not because you were just doing something so incredibly different with the character. And maybe, just like Mary Poppins, the original, is all about saving Mr. Banks, right? The dad, maybe this one's all about saving the mom because today you have a lot of working moms, right? Saving Mrs. Banks. I think that would be absolutely hilarious and very modern, and I think a good twist on the character that warrants revisiting the material. So I actually really like it, and I'll be curious to see if Disney saw this and would even consider it. Someone should at least make a sketch. Although I did see the really funny sketch with Kristen Bell about equal pay for women with Mary Poppins, and I think Kristen Bell made a pretty good Mary Poppins. And I was most impressed with the production values on that sketch. I was like, that looks a lot like the Mary Poppins nursery, so that's very well done. I don't think that I think it just shows if you're going to escape the shadow of Mary Poppins, you need to make changes that are that radical. Now, as for the viewer request, this is a pretty serious request. I get requests a lot, it's my birthday, can you give a shout out? And I don't do it usually. I'm happy to do it on Twitter, but there are a lot of BTT viewers, and I would feel very bad if somebody got a birthday shout out and somebody didn't, right? I don't want anyone to feel left out. So I haven't really done birthday shout outs on the show. But BTT viewer Sean O'Brien, who I talk with regularly on Twitter, I love when you guys tweet me, I try to respond or at least favorite as often as I can. And Sean O'Brien wrote me a very touching couple of tweets on Friday about his mother. And he really requested that I talk about her because she's sick. And I thought this would be this was a request, how can I not honor it? And also I really kind of wanted us all to give our thoughts and prayers to Sean and his mother Janice at this very difficult time. Janice, unfortunately, I don't want to go too much into it because I want to respect their privacy. And also, it's a difficult time for them, and I think we want to be positive. But Janice, unfortunately, has cancer, and she's had it for a few years now, and she's in the hospital, and things are not going very well. So Sean is there with her right now, and he just wanted to get a shout-out for her. So Janice, hello? I hope that you're having a good day. I think it's wonderful that your son is there with you and loves you so much. It's so wonderful to see such a great relationship between a parent and a child. And I hope that you guys are having a great time in that hospital room together and watching a lot of great movies. And Janice, I hear that your favorite superhero is Batman. Me too. I wondered, did you guys celebrate Batman Day on Saturday? I'm asking all BTT viewers to say shout out to you guys. So be sure to read the comments down below. And also, if you guys have any suggestions for things that they might be able to do in the hospital room, like any good movies to watch. Sean says that Janice, you like BBC, television shows like Downton Abbey. Well, I would recommend Gosford Park. That's the actual show that inspired Downton Abbey. It's written by Julian Fellows. Robert Altman directed. It's really funny to watch because it's so much like Downton Abbey, but it's really good, and it's kind of like a Downton Abbey extra if you can't get any right now while the show is on hiatus while we wait for it to come here to the States. And so I think, guys, what would you recommend that they do? Any fun activities? Any good movies to watch? Any good TV shows? And Sean and Janice, I hope that you're having a great day together, and I'm glad that you are together today. And Janice, I'm so happy to be able to say hello to you, and to wish you good luck with your fighting your sickness. And I want you to know we're all rooting for you, and you're in all of our thoughts and prayers. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. That's today's morning movie news. And be sure down below, you know the drill, but in particular today, just some well wishes for Sean and Janice. I'm sure they would appreciate it. All right, thank you so much. Bye.